Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Legislative Matters Now with M&M. I'm Morgan Spicer, Special Projects Coordinator here at the ARC in the Mid-Ohio Valley.
And I'm Melissa Southall, Self-Advocate Coordinator with the ARC and People First. Before we begin today's show, Morgan, can you explain the purpose of the show?
I would love to. The purpose of our program is to educate all self-advocates, including myself and Melissa, on the ever-important topic of legislative advocacy. We do this by having a guest each month talk about various pieces of legislation. We also, on many programs, depending on the topic and time allowed, do a segment called Advocate in Action, where we talk to a self-advocate who is using their self-advocacy skills in a positive light to not only influence their lives, but the lives of others around them.
Our guests will be joining us in just a few moments, but first, let's get to this month's edition of Who You Gonna Call.
On today's Who You Gonna Call, you want to know more about the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy, but do not know who to ask to find out more. So who are you going to call? Your city council member, your state House of Delegates or state senators, your U.S. Senator or U.S. Congress members, or the agency or organization that you want to know more about. All right, Morgan and Melissa, what do you think, Morgan? Okay, Melissa? Final answer? You're both correct. The agency or organization you want to know more about. The West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy is a policy research organization that is nonpartisan, nonprofit, and statewide. The Center's research and analysis is designed to support informed public dialogue and policy in West Virginia. The Center consults and collaborates with other organizations to ensure that its analyses are relevant and timely, and strives to be a knowledgeable and respected source of credible information on public budget and fiscal issues for policymakers, advocates, media, and the public. The Center participates in a national network of similar organizations that already exist in over half of U.S. states as part of the state's priority partnership, sponsored by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities and the Economic Analysis and Research Network, an initiative of the Economic Policy Institute. Their mission is to use research and analysis to advance the well-being of West Virginia communities and to promote and support the essential role of government in improving the quality of life in the state.
To explain this further, our guest today is Seth DiStefano. Seth is the Policy Outreach Director with the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy, a statewide, nonpartisan nonprofit. Thanks so much, Seth, for joining us today.
Thank you so much to the ARC of the Mid-Ohio Valley for having me today.
All right, Melissa, you can start us off.
Can you please explain the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy, including its main function?
Absolutely. The West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy is a nonpartisan, nonprofit advocacy and research organization. We specialize in a few areas of research and advocacy. The first being how taxes and the state budget settled in Charleston every year impact our daily lives, right? So everywhere around us, be it the roads, be it our libraries, be it our schools, all these other considerations, the state budget is everywhere. And the services that we rely on as communities require that everyone, individuals, corporations alike, pay their fair share in taxes to do so. So we do a lot of research around that. And we also do a lot of research and analysis and advocacy on behalf of the safety net to make sure that those West Virginians most in need have what they need. Things like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, access to Medicaid for health care, access to unemployment insurance if you fall on hard times, things like that. We've been around since about 2007, 16 years, and have worked on things such as increasing the minimum wage from $7.25 to $8.75 to the expansion of Medicaid. We were very involved with that, and several other issues as well.
Is this part of the government or independent organization?
We are an independent organization, and we are not, I want to repeat, we are not part of the government.
How do you get your information to the people you think need it?
That's a great question. So we employ a variety of different strategies to make sure that we are getting our research and analysis and information, spread out throughout the communities. In addition to being our policy outreach director, I am the person who spends the most time at the legislature working with lawmakers. So there's the kind of one-on-one meeting aspect there that happens, very intensely during the state legislative session, but also throughout the year. But we also, and I think most importantly, work in coalition with partners on issues ranging from criminal law reform to access to healthcare, to food security, to tax equity, and everything kind of in between there. And I think that truly the most important way we disseminate information is to make sure that our allies have it, right? So that they are most prepared when they engage in conversations with their lawmakers. So we do that, through our blog. If you go to our website, wvpolicy.org, there's a tab on the far left that says blog. That's one that we have a very, very active blog that we get information out on a variety of subjects. We have a weekly newsletter called Budget Beat that folks can sign up for. If you go to our website, that's very easy to do as well. We're very active on social media, Facebook and Twitter. We also get information out that way as well.
What role does the center play in the legislative process?
So we have multiple roles. When we started the Center on Budget and Policy, our founding executive director, Ted Bettner, it really was strictly a research and analysis organization. So we really focused most of our energy on doing research and producing reports. And then we realized that, I think Ted realized that we needed to kind of add some extra dimensions. So, a couple of years later, Ted, involved the communications aspect, right? So it's not just enough to do the research and analysis. People have to know about it, right? And so that became a bigger part of it. And then moving into the future, we became also, an organization that took the research and the data and engaged in advocacy and campaigns to improve the material circumstances of our friends and neighbors' lives. Things like advocating for an increase in the minimum wage, to support workers who are, oftentimes in like frontline retail, restaurant work, those types of things. The expansion of Medicaid that was so critically important and remains critically important in West Virginia. We do this very similar to how we disseminate information. We have a full-time presence at the legislature where we work with lawmakers to answer their questions related to how policies impact their constituents on various matters. And then we also make sure that our coalition partners have what they need in the way of data and analysis, so they're in the strongest possible position to influence their lawmakers.
What other groups or organizations do you work with besides the legislature?
So we, oftentimes do work with like local county commissions and city councils, depending on the issue. We were very involved in fighting Amendment 2 from last year. I'm sure you remember that. Amendments 2 and 4. We were very publicly opposed to that, toured all over the state, spoke in front of dozens of county commissions and other government entities. But really, a lot of our work is focused on, coalition, and specifically coalitions that are comprised of and led by people with direct personal experience, lived experience, right? So, if you really want to support, for instance, disability rights, you need to be working with organizations that put, folks with disabilities kind of at the forefront of their mission in their work. And the same with criminal law reform, and the same, with racial equity and those types of issues along those lines. And so making sure that we are, acting in a servant's capacity, if you will, I think that's very important. We at the center, do not portend to lead or be great leaders, on any of these issues, but it's important that we serve our coalition partners in a way that finds the information that they need and finds the data that they find helpful, that puts them in the strongest possible position to go and advocate and make change on behalf of their communities.
Do you have a particular group that you focus on to help make sure they have the information they need to make good decisions when they're asked to vote on issues or their opinion on things in their community?
I think as far as the center's mission, our highest priority is to focus and work with folks who are oftentimes left out of the policy conversation, right? And so, making policy, especially at the state legislative level, can tend to be a real insider's game. If you're not part of the in crowd, if you're not part of the club, you oftentimes are left out of the conversation. And so at the center, I think we have made it our mission since our founding, and I believe we continue to live up to these ideals, is to empower folks folks who struggle with poverty, our Black and brown neighbors, West Virginians with disabilities, and others oftentimes just don't get the same seat at the table, if any seat at the table, when it comes to the public policy process in West Virginia. And so our big emphasis here at the center is doing whatever we can to make sure we're putting the focus on them and making sure they have the resources, specifically when it comes to data and us. It's hard to argue with numbers, right? Lawmakers may try to argue with numbers, but it can get kind of difficult, when 2 + 2 really only has one answer, right? And so we like to really put the emphasis on those communities and do what we can to help them realize their power in this process.
Do you do all of this research on your own, or do you work with other organizations and agencies?
So I don't do really any research, just me, right? So I'm the policy outreach director, but we do have some fantastic, incredibly great researchers on staff. Our senior policy analyst, Sean, is outstanding. Rhonda Ragambe, our safety net policy analyst, is brilliant. And our executive director, Kelly Allen, is a healthcare expert like none other. And so they really combine to do outstanding analysis on a multitude of issues. But we also have a national network of folks that we work with, the National Employment Law Project for data and statistics that impact workers. The National Women's Law Project, the Economic Analysis and Research Network. So we do work in combination with some other folks across the country to find data and look at data as a means of impacting policy change. But just so you know, we do have some amazing researchers right here on staff too, and they do a lot of great work.
I know you have explained different things that you do, but at the end of the day, what is your ultimate goal as an organization?
Well, I don't want to speak for everyone who works here, but to be honest with you, my ultimate goal, working with the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy, is a West Virginia where I am no longer necessary, right? I want a West Virginia where folks who are oftentimes left out of the policy conversations are the ones actually making policy decisions. I would like to see, and I think we would like to see, a West Virginia where healthcare is not treated as a privilege, but a right that everyone has access to, where a living wage is the standard, not something to be, not something to look forward to, right? And again, like I talked about, where everyone has a shared prosperity, and a West Virginia that truly lives with the front value of we all do better when we all do better, and one where I don't have to do this work anymore. So that's my dream.
Anything that you would like to add?
Well, I think first, a great big thank you to the Arc of the Mid-Ohio Valley for having me on today. This was great. Anytime I get to talk to the good folks in that part of West Virginia, it's a good day for me. I just want to give our website another big shout out. It's great. It's very easy to navigate. It's wvpolicy.org. And if you have, research-based questions, or if you've ever asked yourself, I'm not really sure about how, this person is telling me this is the deal on this particular policy, but I think I see something different in my community. And if you ever really had a question about that, we may not have all the answers, but please feel free to email me. It's my first initial and last name. It's SDISTEFANO at wvpolicy.org. I will do everything I can to try and figure out answers if you have database questions, or maybe connect you with folks who I think might be able to help you out.
Is there anything that you would like to show on the screen to help what you were talking about?
Well, I mean, I can give folks an example of the kind of, community events we're doing right now, if you'd like. For instance, I'm sure everyone has heard about the big tax bill that the legislature and the governor are consistently bragging about. I just wanted to take a minute and kind of show, part of a presentation. We did this in Parkersburg a couple weeks ago. I was in Morgantown and Grafton this week. I'm going to head up to Wheeling next week. And kind of just show a little bit about who wins with the tax bill. And there are a lot of other things with this presentation. If you or your community or anyone out there listening to the podcast would like to have me come to an event in your town, please reach out. But this particular slide is one of the more important ones. So this year during the state legislature, the governor once again pushed for a repeal of the personal income tax. The personal income tax is a progressive form of revenue generation, right? So the revenue generated from the personal income tax, the responsibility of that falls more on wealthier households in West Virginia than it does on lower income households. We at the center feel that's a good thing, right? Those who are more fortunate and are doing better should have to contribute a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the problem is when you cut the personal income tax, it's the wealthiest households that win the most, really. And it's middle and lower income households that not only don't really see much from it, but they really, really take a hit on the services that could have been offered that ultimately end up having to get cut out. This is the particular who wins graphic. There are a lot more information to this particular presentation. And again, if you are interested and having me come to your community and we can have a community meeting, I can give the presentation, we can do a conversation afterwards about the things in your community that make your community great, that may have to go without if the state does not have the money to support those things.
Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us today.
Thank you all so much. I look forward to coming back maybe sometime in the future. Just let myself or Alex know. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and a great weekend too.
Do not forget, if you have an important piece of legislation you want discussed on a future episode or want to be an advocate in action, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can call the ARC at 304-422-3151, or you can email Melissa or I directly. My email is morgan.spicer@thearcmov.org. And Melissa can be reached at
melissa.southall@peoplefirstwv.org. We would love to hear from you.
This month, we are going to do our Advocate in Action segment, but this time we brought someone back that we talked to about a year ago. Melissa, who is that?
Yes, Morgan. We've brought back Becky Spaulding. She is from Poca, West Virginia, and a current graduate from Partners in Policy Making. Thank you so much for joining us again, Becky.
Hi, guys. I'm excited to be back. Thank you for having me. Since I graduated the class, I have been trying my best to advocate. I have been last year, I was appointed to the West Virginia Statewide Independent Living Council, or the SIL is what it's called. We have some very exciting things going on. We recently purchased a new headquarters, which is now located on McCorkle Avenue in St. Albans, West Virginia. The new building is outfitted with 4 studio apartments that we are renting, and we are going to raise funds through a capital campaign to do remodeling of the headquarters. The upstairs, we want to raise enough funds to get an elevator so that any individual physical disability, cognitive, intellectual, developmental can have access to a safe place they can call their own. We are very excited to have that new headquarters, and just excited to be here trying to raise awareness for any individual with any disability.
We had Jerry Boyko on last month's episode, and he gave us our perspective. So what about your perspective? How do you feel about joining Silk?
I think Silk is a wonderful organization. We try to help. Right now, we're trying to raise money for individuals that need adaptive equipment or car modifications so that anyone can drive if they just need a modification. Unfortunately, though, as I know with everywhere, funds are low, and there's a 5-year waiting list to get vehicle modifications. So it's at the top of the list that we want to get the funds so that everyone can enjoy the open road, regardless of disability or not.
Hey, Becky, what kind of modifications are people looking for, or what are they needing?
Well, a modification can be something as simple as, I want to use the right word, but I don't know the correct word, lever to help with gas and brake. And it could be something as simple as that, or could be more where someone needs a lift to get it to raise their wheelchair into the vehicle. So there are a broad range of modifications, and like I said, we want everyone to be able to drive. So it could be $100, could be $50,000, I'm just saying those numbers. I don't have I don't have a complete list of how much modifications could be. But what we would like to see is car companies coming out with vehicles that are already modified. So the individual, when they purchase their vehicle, do not have to have it modified. We're working on that as well, but that's way in the future.
Well, it's definitely good to start working at it now, so you'll definitely be ready when the time comes. So what else has been going on with you lately?
I'm also a council member of the Olmsted Council, which Olmsted has an anniversary coming up next month. And we want to get everyone involved in Olmsted because individuals are forced to reside in the facility. You don't have the comforts of home when you're in the facility. And we want everyone to have the chance, if they wanted, to live in the community of their choice and thrive in that community.
Okay, thank you, Becky. So I serve on different boards and committees. Right now I serve on West Virginia Disability Rights. What are some of the different ones that you serve on? I know you serve on Silk and Olmsted. And why do you think it's important?
I serve on Silk, Olmsted, the TPI Advisory Board, and the West Virginia Assistive Technology Services. All of these organizations are vital to any individual with a disability. We help keep them in the community, return to work, return to learn. And that way everyone has the opportunity to live where they want, how they want, work where they want, go to school where they want, and they're given the same opportunities that other individuals have.
What would you say to encourage others to join these committees?
It's very satisfying when you serve on these committees and then you hear back, hey, we got 5 people back to the community, or we were able to help build a wheelchair ramp for an individual who is stuck inside their home because they don't have access to the outside. So it's very rewarding and satisfying that I'm making a difference.
So it doesn't take as much time to be on these committees and to help people. What do you think about that?
I agree. I would say it might be a total of 3 days a year. I mean, that's minuscule to what I spend my time on the rest of the year. So it's giving back to the community. It's not time consuming. It's not like a job where you have a demand, you have to be at a meeting 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's 6 days a year for the Silk. And considering what I'm giving back, that's nothing.
Is there anything else you would like to add? It's been great to talk to you again. So anything else you want to speak about?
You encourage individuals to cast their votes in November. Consider it like a job interview, seeing what candidates are running and who's going to do the best for West Virginia.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Becky, for joining us today, and good luck in that capital campaign. We recently had one a while back and reached our goal, so we wish you the best of luck with yours.
Thank you very much. We have talked about your campaign and how successful it was, so we're hoping we achieve the same success. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for coming back to talk to us.
Thank you again, Becky.
Thanks. Bye.
Do not forget, if you have an important piece of legislation you want discussed on a future episode or want to be an advocate in action, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can call the ARC at 304-422-3151, or you can email Melissa or I directly. My email is morgan.spicer@thearcmov.org. And Melissa, how can they get a hold of you?
And my email is melissa.southall@peoplefirstwv.org. We would love to hear from you. With that, we are out of time for this month's episode. Thanks so much, Seth DiStefano from the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy, an advocate in action for this month. Becky Spaulding for joining us this month. With that, we are out of time for this month's show.
Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, advocacy matters.
And so do you.
See you next time.